Is music theory necessary for the modern hip-hop producer? Let's look at some takes from some successful producers.
Can't feel by what you learn on paper. You can take what you learn on paper, but then you still got to master the feeling.
True.
I could give you the chords to play, the same type of chords, but if you don't got that soul in you, what good is the theory? Feeling is the most important. Theory is not.
Like, I feel like it is important to a certain extent, but like I never like learned it, you know? Like I remember like I was pretty good at drums, so like I wanted to go take some lessons and stuff, and then I started taking lessons and they were trying to teach me theory. Like you open the book, you read the notes, like all that, and I was like, no, like just like stopped. I stopped after like 2 lessons. I was like, I can't do this.
So first off, much respect to both of them. I really love both of their catalogs as far as their production, and also shout out to Producer Culture. Really great Instagram page for the producer community, probably one of the best. That's where the clips come from. Now, before I get into my opinion, I know how the internet works in case it gets legs. Not my audience, but the internet. And the internet, it's industry producer greater than guy who makes beats on YouTube. You know, I be seeing y'all in the comments on a lot of these Instagram posts on other pages doing a lot of deluxe glazing. So before we get into this, I'm going to play a clip of Pharrell, another top tier, as top tier as you could possibly get producer, speaking on the importance of music theory.
Then there are people who, and they may not be able to read music, they may not be able to tell you what key it's in, but they just have that thing where they just go in and chase those chords until they find it. I would say those people are the naturals, but you can be a natural all you want. You're gonna need some training. And what training does is, expand your horizon in terms of like your taste and give you exposure to things that you otherwise would not go looking for. And I have to say, some of us that have been classically trained in music, that's what's given us this, wind after wind after wind after wind. I would not have been able to score the Despicable Me thing without any kind of training, because I would have just gone on there and just everything would have sounded like boom, boom, boom. But instead, I was able to, be eclectic, in my approach and just come from many different directions. It allows you a ticket into places that your other colleagues can't go.
So the one thing I want you to notice is that he mentioned the Despicable Me soundtrack. What he's doing on that soundtrack is a bunch of dynamic music scoring, and a lot of different musical stuff that's not loops. It's a whole different lane of music than just hip hop production, which is what he's clearly known for the most part. He also mentioned that it helps you get your foot indoors that your peers can't go in, because now that he knows music theory and stuff like that, he can make musical scores like a Hans Zimmer who worked on Batman and Inception as far as the music in the background. But I understand as far as his channel and a lot of the people who are going to find this video and stuff, you guys have no desire to be Hans Zimmer or to do musical scores for a movie or anything like that. You want to express your creativity and gain success doing hip hop. Understandable. So I say this to that. You don't need music theory to be successful in hip hop at all. At all. Period, point blank, 0%. Let's just get that out the way. But the thing that I want you to know is that music theory, number one, is always present in everything that you do musically. It just is, even if you're not aware of it. But the other thing is, a lot of people will utilize people who know music theory in their production process. That's just what it is. I'll give you just 2 examples that are real prevalent in hip hop just to drive that point home. If you get a live instrumentalist on your track, 9 times out of 10, they know music theory and they've mastered playing their instrument, or they've gotten really proficient at playing their instrument. And another one, if you want to say like, well, they probably learned how to play that without no music theory. All right, so let's just say that's the case. Hip hop is built on sampling. A lot of the music that's sampled from eras like the 80s all the way down to the 50s. A composer who is well trained in music theory or knows a lot about the theory of music, like a Smokey Robinson, is going to make a composition, and then he's going to have other musicians who also know music theory come in and play the shit. And then you sample it. You chop it up, you freak it, you do all that, you put your drums over it, and it's a beat. But those musicians back then had to know what they were doing before they called in all the people to make the music, because it wasn't how it is now. And I will get to that at the end. Now, outside of that, let's talk about the feeling, because Timberland mentioned the feeling and he said music theory is not more important than the feeling, which how could you disagree with that? The whole point of music is feeling. Feeling is something that I understood for a long time is extremely important. Now, this is the thing about the feeling. There are a lot of aspects as far as the instruments you choose and et cetera, that can help dictate the feeling, how you perform, how you play. You get a vocalist on it, what energy they bring. All those things can contribute to the feeling. One of the most important things that contributes to the feeling, undeniably, is the notes. The actual notes that you choose to use. Guess what? When you look at something like R&B, they use the 2-5-1 chord progression all over the place in R&B. Why do they do that? As far as using a 2-5-1 in R&B, it's a predictable way to get that silky feel that makes R&B. Let's go to another, let's go to what I do a lot on my channel, which is a dark trap beat. You'll see people make hard trap beat, all that stuff. What are some of the main tips that you hear in everybody's videos, no matter who you watch? You'll hear them say to use a suspended chord. Now, they might not say use a suspended chord. They may say, you put this note one lower and then you raise it up, and then, that tension notes, you got to use the tension notes as well that are one semitone away from each other. All of that is music theory. And they're telling you that because that is how you achieve the sound from the notes that give you the feeling. Just because you don't know music theory doesn't mean music theory is not present in the music. I sometimes will sit down in front of the keyboard and just play whatever. I'm not thinking about no theory. I'm like, let me just lay down some chords. Let me see where this goes. I'm not even thinking of a scale. I will just play stuff. And I see where it goes. We going off the field, all that. We just being creative. But being that I know theory, if I wanted to break down the theory behind that, as far as the notes that I played, it's possible for me to do that. And I'm going to be transparent. The reason that I got into music theory is because I was in the bubble of just making stuff off feeling, making hip hop. I played the saxophone in high school. I knew a little bit, but I didn't know enough to do the things that I heard outside of hip hop musically, specifically in R&B, sometimes in rock, sometimes other types of music, like, 80s music, whatever. They would do bridges, and I'm like, how do they do that musically? Because that's something I can't do. When you listen to somebody like Stevie Wonder's music and you hear him going all over the place, and it's like there's not even a scale present, which that's modulations. You hear certain things in certain music and you like, how do you do that? My curiosity is what led me to learning music theory. Me wanting to elevate and all that stuff. Now, this is the thing. Everybody's journey is different. You don't got to do that. You don't even got to have a desire to do any of that. But the whole point is they were doing something I couldn't do, achieving a feel that I could not achieve. So with that, I wanted to learn how to do that. I want to make a clear distinction. Music theory doesn't make the music, you make the music. But if anything rhythmic, melodic, or harmonic is happening in that music, it can be dissected by music theory 9 times out of 10. That's just what it is. And also, that theory can be used to get similar results, just keeping it 500,000. So understand music theory is just a tool. But I want to read this because I had to tell that to this person. Somebody wrote in one of my comments on my page about music theory, it's like some people say to keep from using music theory because it keeps you from being fully creative. But then I see people make something wild in moments using it, so I don't know what to do. I responded to him. We won't get into my response, but this is the issue with that. I don't have an issue with people saying music theory is not necessary, because clearly it's not. I don't have too many issues with most of the narratives surrounding music theory. I just don't. But when you tell somebody to avoid learning it, when you push them away and then tell them that it's going to hinder them, I absolutely have a problem with that. When you look at any other craft, whether it's art, as far as painting, you never heard nobody say learning color palettes is going to hinder your creative ability. You've never heard anybody say that, because it's ridiculous. I could draw a bunch of parallels, but this is the point. Like I mentioned in the last part, it is a tool. Your brain is not going to get to the point where you like, oh my goodness, I don't know what key I'm playing in. Oh my God, no, the world is ending. It's never going to be like that. You can choose to use it just like you choose to use motherfucking RC20 scalar, fucking one shots, loops and MIDI packs, all that shit. Like you can turn it on, you can turn it off, you can choose when you use it. And I'll be honest with you, when you look at it like that, you have more power. You have more options when it comes to flexing your creativity. That's just my opinion, but I really think it's a fact. I'm going to get into how I look at creativity one day, just not today. But let's talk about the tool itself. When do you use it? So I'm going to dumb it down and keep it real simple for you. So the first thing you can do is learn chord progressions. I have a video on my page that is the most used chord progression in rap. Why is it the most used? Because it gets you the most predictable results as far as the mood. Chord progressions are one of the easiest ways to dictate the mood of a track, one of the most predictable ways, and that's why they are used so much. So if you learn chord progressions, it'll help you dictate the mood and the feeling of the track to some extent. So that's the first thing. And a lot of people do it. People do it in all forms of music, contemporary music, and they do it a lot. That's why when you go on like Hook Theory or a page like that, you'll see the most popular chord progressions and stuff like that. They get used and used over and over and over. You can flip them in different ways. But that aside, the second way you could use the tool, when you make R&B, if you want to make more complex R&B, like some of the plug and B stuff, like with the crazy chords and stuff like that, or even if you want to make some silky bridges like Babyface or R. Kelly used to do in the 90s and stuff like that, you don't see too many bridges now. Summer Walker has some slick stuff on her stuff, but if you want to achieve that level of R&B, you're definitely going to want to learn more theory, and you'll be able to do a lot of things a lot easier by learning some modulations and how to use 9th chords and 11th chords, 13th chords, and voice them in different ways, etc., etc. So that's the second thing. And the third way to use the tool is going to be versatility. So when you know music theory as far as a universal theory and stuff like that, you can look at other genres of music and it'll be easier for you to understand them and make them. Also, if you get into something like sync licensing, TV and film, you can diversify your catalog. I have done scores for, people that I know as far as their videos and things like that, and I've gotten paid for it because I was able to do it. So you can create new lanes for yourself by being able to do that. You can diversify your income as a producer by being able to diversify your catalog and shop to different people. So that's my tips on all of that. If you want to learn music theory, I got a playlist that goes over the beginnings, the basics, and all of that stuff to get you in there. I'll catch y'all.